Hello everyone, welcome to our next Vigor map tutorial. And today we are covering Sagbruk, or Sawmill as most people will call it. Sagbruk is a small map with a lobby of 6 to 8 players. It looks a little bit bigger than Battery, but the main playing field is probably smaller than Battery is. Sagbruk is a lot more dangerous than Battery in my opinion, and it is very unlikely that you will see a lobby full of raincoats here. You can expect the lobbies to have mid-level players here who know what they're doing and have experience in playing Vigor. This map is incredibly good for looting. Even after the loot redistribution of Season 12, I was surprised to see how well this map does for loot while I was researching it. So let's get started with this tutorial and show you all where that loot is. We start with our points of interest overview, and it's clear right away that everything is concentrated in the middle of the map. This is also going to be defined as the main playing field for this tutorial, and because everything spawns so close to each other and the lobbies are pretty small, it can really become a winner takes it all encounter. Barred House and Time Save both have two spawning locations at the house near the railroad. They can spawn in the big shed and the smaller shed, and they can both spawn in the same shed sometimes. Same for the Sawmill main building and Cabin in the Woods, both saves can spawn at the exact same location. Interesting about this map is that Barred House only has 6 potential spawning locations instead of the usual 7. Locked Container also has 6 potential spawning locations instead of the usual 5. This is the first map I have come across that breaks through the usual number of 5 for Time Save and Locked Container and 7 for Barred House. I don't think that means the container has a higher chance of spawning as a point of interest on this map, although I am not sure how the algorithm works on generating map layouts. Next up is the loot distribution. Like I said, this map is great for loot. It's probably one of the best maps at this moment for getting a high loot per encounter. You will find a lot of chemicals, fertilizers, electronics and fuel on this map, backed up by wire, nails and metal. Glass a bit less, but still obtainable from a few houses on the map. I did my best here to micro mark all the locations where loot can be found. Do some test runs yourself on all of these locations and you will quickly learn which paths to take to get from one loot stack to another. And if you are lucky enough to find a blue loot box, you can fill up your backpack very quickly on this map and be out of here before the airdrop even lands. Yellow spots are less interesting areas but still have loot, or they're a bunch of cars. Cars are always risky to loot because of the alarms. However, they are good for fuel and you may need that fuel to unlock the exit on this map. Red areas have no real loot value. Destroyed Dreams, Hide Overlook and Camping Disaster are landmarks where you won't find anything that's worth it. Sawmill main building and the shed across from it, also no real loot there, so not worth running through these unless a point of interest or calm spawned here. People usually camp on the roofs here. It's a good spot to be in. You can see very far and then you have good cover there, but that's about it. Both of these buildings also have wooden floors and are very loud if you walk in there, so you're not sneaking if you go through that building and other players will hear you coming. Fisherman Settlement is a great looting area. It's also a special area on this map. Nothing spawns at the Fisherman Settlement except for signals sometimes. That means that there is no real reason for people to come here, except that this can be a gold mine of loot. There are a lot of locations where the blue loot boxes can spawn and every building will have loot inside of it. I'll explain more about this area in the map dynamics part of this video. I'm not going to go into detail about what spawns where, which loot can be found at which location, because everything is pretty mixed up. You'll find fertilizer and chemicals next to each other, you will find nails and chemicals next to each other. So like I said, do a couple of test runs on this map, go from one area to another and you will quickly know what spawns where and how much you can find at certain locations. Moving on to the spawning locations. Usual disclaimer here, these are not all the exact spawns. This is just to give you an idea where other players can spawn relative to your own spawning location. Most people will spawn on the west, north or east side of the map, and one lucky person will spawn south in the playing field. And a couple of people will spawn near the fisherman settlement, which is part of the mechanic that this map has. There's not much else to say about spawns here. There should be a decent distance between you and the nearest person, but that doesn't mean you are safe at the area that you spawn in. Next up is Signals. Signals has 5 potential spawning locations on this map. 2 are in the middle of the playing field at the sawmill or sawmill shed. 1 is to the east of the playing field on the overlook, and 1 is to the west at the cabin in the woods. And the last one is at the fisherman settlement. If you can get control over Signals when it spawns in the middle of the playing field, then you can have a winner takes it all game for yourself. Because of how small the playing field is, this gives you a huge advantage over other players here, and players will be forced to relocate after Signals is used. The one at the cabin is great if a point of interest is nearby, or if you spawn there and you want to venture into the middle of the playing field to secure a point of interest. The one at the overlook is a little less useful. It's only good if you sit up in the hills there and you have an overview of the house near the railroad, or if you want to secure an exit. Because it's located uphill, it's less interesting to go back and forth to this one. The last one is at the fisherman settlement, and this one is 100% neutral to the playing field in my opinion. No one is going to go back and forth to this one, and even if you use it, by the time you would get anywhere, the situation will have completely changed. The only thing this location is good for is to secure the settlement itself and allow you to have a secure mind while you loot and give you the drop on approaching outlanders. Okay, so we have covered the layout of the map so far, and it's time to get into the map dynamic a little bit. It's a pretty straightforward map. It's a small map. Points of interest are concentrated together with a lot of loot, and it's a small lobby of players spawning around the edges. Like I said at the start of the video, this is a map where experienced players come for loot, and they do not come with an AKM and a bandage. No, they bring their better weapons and consumables with them, because they want to defend their loot and they want to make it out alive. People usually won't rush a point of interest here either. Everybody knows that somebody else is close by, and most of the time players will camp a point of interest. If Bard or Container spawns near the house at the railroad, you can be sure that at least 3 people will be watching it from a distance, waiting for somebody else to open it before they strike. And there are a lot of places to hide on this map. There are a lot of trees and bushes on the side of the main playing field. But if you can initiate a conflict and be the one that survives it, then you can get control over the area and be the winner who takes it all. I recommend not looting a point of interest until you are really sure you have control over the area. You can of course open a safe or container to draw out potential threats, but definitely stay on your toes the whole time. I also recommend you bring portable signal detectors on this map. You may not have access or control over signals here, but knowing the locations of your enemy is very important on this map. Are they close or are they far? Are they looting another area or are they watching you? Other consumables can also help you here to confirm the location of another player, such as alarm traps or contact bombs. And because the lobby is so small, the portable signal detectors will have a greater value to your own safety. Speaking of the lobby size, I want to explain the significance of the fisherman settlement. Like I said, it is a gold mine for loot. Usually 2 people will spawn close by, sometimes 3. 1 of them will be in the settlement and 2 of them will be on the edge. The 2 on the outer edge can choose to move on the settlement itself or go to the main playing field. This is one of the earliest conflict zones on the map, and whoever survives it can loot the whole area for themselves. If signals is there, you can also make sure you are alone and keep an eye out if people are getting closer or not. Now this area is a bit distant from the main playing field, so all the players that are focused on the settlement are not focused on the main playing field. That quickly reduces the number of active players in the main playing field. That does not make the map any safer, do not let that fool you. Besides signals, nothing will spawn here, not even a comm station, so you can't pull the airdrop to this area. It can be placed there from another comm, so that means that near the end of the game, players may be coming to this area to collect the airdrop. So I hope you understand now why I recommend that you bring portable signal detectors to this map. There may be only 5 or 6 people playing in the main playing field, and if you bring 2 ports, that actually gives you an advantage on 1/3 of the active players, which can be a huge difference between winning and losing on this map. Now, I know that for new players it's not that easy to bring in portable signal detectors, so don't go and craft them just to bring them on this map. Chances are you don't even have the schematic yet, but if you do have a stack and you haven't been using them, then I recommend you do use them for this map. A quick look at the Hotzones on this map. As we just covered, the fisherman settlement will have a conflict 99% of the time. Cabin in the woods, especially if a point of interest spawns there, will also be a early Hotzone. Sawmill is also a potential crossing between multiple players, and the house near the railroad will definitely have some dead outlanders by the end of the game. This map does allow you to play passive. If you can sneak and hide, get around other players, you can loot a lot without getting into a conflict. But that will require you to avoid points of interest like container or barred house. Movement limitations. Like I said for Kirsten, this map also has some hard and softer restrictions in your movement, which means you are not able to go anywhere at any time. The sawmill area has elevated walkways that block your movement but not your vision. Small cliffs and rocks on the edges of the playing field will limit you to a one-way movement, especially near the derailed train and the tourist rest. I personally find myself using the same paths a lot of times while moving on this map, and the loot distribution also plays a big role in this, of course. So be aware that other players will also be using the same paths as you, which may lead to conflicts by crossing each other. And the last part of our video, as always, the exits. There are 5 exits on this map and one of them is locked. I marked the one north, south and west with a yellow arrow, not because they are bad exits, but because they are far away from the playing field and also far from other exits. All 3 of these exits are pretty straightforward. You have room to get to them by running along the sides of the map to avoid campers a little bit. That doesn't mean there are no campers here. I think this is an average map when it comes to exit camping. You will come across your occasional bush wookie near an exit. The exit to the northeast I marked green because it is close to 2 other exits and it is also close to the playing field. You can approach this one as well from different directions without any problems. All of these exits are viable to use. Which one you do use will mostly depend on your own location and the potential location of enemy players. So keep an eye out where the airdrop will land and which points of interest have not been unlocked yet and where they are located. Last exit is the one on the dock. This one is locked and requires 5 fuel to open. Fuel can be found on this map in points of interest or inside vehicles. And like I always said, looting cars is a risk versus reward situation. Do you loot the cars, risk an alarm and get the fuel you need to open the exit, or do you avoid the cars and stay stealthy? On a small map like this, you may want to think twice about setting off the car alarm. But if you manage to obtain 5 fuel, then you can adapt your playstyle to use this exit. It doesn't get used very often, so it's a relative safe exit in my opinion. This exit area is also pretty wide, so crows will be set off very early if somebody else is in the area as well. Make sure you exit on time. Radiation will kill you if you start your exit run too late. Before the update, it wasn't that big of an issue, but since update 12, radiation is a problem if you exit too late. Also be careful with the airdrop on this map. Since 12.1 the radiation has been boosted, and without iodine you might not make it to an exit if the airdrop is radiated. And that wraps up our video on Sagbruk. So to recap, small map, concentrated points of interest, lots of loot, limited exits, experienced lobbies, high risk, high reward map, bring portable signal detectors. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this will help you understand the map a bit better and help you increase your loot here. Leave a like if you found it helpful and maybe subscribe if you're looking forward to the next one. Thanks for watching and see you guys later. Bye!